I'm Simon Allford, I'm President of the RIBA. I'd like to welcome all of you here to 66 Portland Place. This is a joint event which we, the RIBA, are hosting with the Office for Place. And as you know, the title is Beauty, Who Cares Wins. For those of you who aren't familiar with the RIBA, this is the leading professional institute and a membership body for architects, a learned society in that sense, with 50,000 members around the world engaged in discourse about what good and ideally best looks like. We're a registered charity with a Royal Charter, and we focus on better buildings, better places, the building of stronger communities, and, of course, a low-carbon, sustainable environment. We're also proud to be a leading cultural institute. We have 4.4 million objects. We have one of the world's greatest collections of drawings, models, and artifacts, and a public programme which is both physical and digital through our portal, architecture.com. On this same basis, we're currently showing our Long Life, Low Energy exhibition in this building at the ground floor. It's all about the circular economy, and it's educating us as designers, but also anyone who enters this building. And increasingly, this building is a place of public discourse, and that's vital to our model for the future. So please do have a look around. We're also hosting the next Building Stories event here at Portland Place on the 7th of February, which will be celebrating the winner of the Neve Brown Housing Award for 2022, which is looking at the UK's best new affordable housing. The 2022 winners, Henley Hale Brown, will be telling the story of their scheme in Hackney, 333 Kingsland Road, a mixture of housing, school, and some offices. But now on to today's event, which epitomises the potential of our House of Architecture idea. The House of Architecture is a programme to inspire members, professionals, students, and the public through a series of engaging, audience-focused exhibitions and events, delivered, as I've said, physically and digitally. In that sense, discourse with government is, of course, key. So it's great to see so many of you here, and it demonstrates the validity of our mission to create a place for debate in London about architecture around the country and around the world. Beauty, placemaking, and what is good design are all important, if at times controversial topics. So I'm looking forward to the discourse and the debate that will inevitably happen around this afternoon. I hope the sessions will leave you inspired, but also thinking critically about important topics and maybe thinking differently. But finally, I want to thank the Office of Place for their collaboration on this event. They, we must acknowledge, have been the driving force behind the scenes and behind the idea, and a pleasure to work with. So it's a great pleasure now that I will hand over to the Minister of State for Housing and Planning at the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, the Right Honourable Lucy Frazer.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to join you all. I'd like to start by saying I'm so pleased to be here, to be able to discuss with you how important beauty and good design is. Not just how we build happy and harmonious communities, but how we level up our whole country. As a government, one of our primary ambitions is to improve the quality of life in every community in this country. And how we structure our places is fundamental to how we go about doing exactly that. I've seen the agendas for today, and I can see it's jam-packed. I know you've got some excellent speakers coming up, and I'm particularly looking forward to hearing about how those speakers frame beauty and how they define it at a local level. Ahead of the event today, I was reflecting on our built environment and how we arrived at our current hodgepodge of different styles and different eras of housing and development. There have been many times when strategic plan making could have made our cities stand out even more in terms of beauty and design. Sir Christopher Wren had a great plan for rebuilding London after the Great Fire. Wren's plan would have produced a grand capital alongside Parisian or Viennese lines, and had it been implemented in the view of Nicholas Hawksmoor, who was a Wren pupil, the city would then have stood foremost of its day amongst the wonders of the world for extent, symmetry, commodiousness, and duration. Despite their merits, Wren's plans never got the go-ahead. As the country was recovering from catastrophe, the Crown was poor, and Charles II was not in a position to impose his will. In more modern times, the most significant inflection point in the development of our built environment was World War II. In its aftermath, we tended, for all too understandable reasons, to prioritise speed of delivery over care and attention to the things that we cherish, such as planting and nature, materials that stand the test of time, places for people to meet and play. The end result is that our towns and cities are not as beautiful as they could have been, and it doesn't need to be like this. I want to see more places where you can really see the impact that architects, urban designers, and planners have made. As architects, as people who look to achieve both beauty and functionality, you will know that many of the problems I've mentioned extend further than just to the style of the places that we live. It's also their layout, what the streets are like to move around. All too often we see development on greenfield sites dominated by cars, where walking to schools and shops isn't even possible. Some places have found themselves stuck with the wrong types of home that don't fit with the character of an area. Developments that stick out more like a sore thumb and fail to make the best use of the land available, and land wasted by poor planning. There are some who will claim that caring about how places are designed is trivial and a distraction to the real issues. But that assessment, in my opinion, is wide of the mark. Beauty matters to people, and therefore it should matter to government. And that's why it's a cornerstone of how we are approaching levelling up in the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill that it's navigating its way through Parliament at the moment. The bill, and our support for communities through investments like the Levelling Up Fund, is putting the emphasis squarely on breathing new life into neglected areas, the wholesale regeneration of areas, giving more than just a facelift to the places that we live and work, and restoring people's pride in the place that they live. And through this legislation, we are bringing our Byzantine planning system into the 21st century in a way that prioritises local consent for new development and puts power in the hands of new local communities. While the bill recognises that we have to build more homes than we are doing today, it also recognises that the way we will do that is by making sure that development adds to the character of an area and comes with the right infrastructure so as not to put additional strain on already stretched public services. A fundamental part of this will be how we plan to empower local communities by strengthening and scaling up the use of neighbourhood planning, as well as digitalising the system to make it easier for underrepresented groups and communities to have their say on local development. I'm sure that many of you will be aware that as part of our reforms, we began a consultation on changes to the National Planning Policy at the end of December, and that will run until the 2nd of March this year. We're consulting because we want to have as many views as possible on our planned approach to updating the National Planning Policy Framework, and we want the views of many of you here today. Architects play a central and underappreciated role in translating the dreams of people into places that raise the spirits and can have long-lasting benefits for our health and well-being, for the environment, and for our economy. Your expertise and input into the design process is what so often makes the difference between a house and a place that feels like somewhere, rather than a place that feels like anywhere. And it's no exaggeration to say that yours is one of the few professions where you can actually translate people's dreams into reality. We want you to be more involved in the creation of new neighbourhoods, creating plans to regenerate our towns and cities and bringing your expertise to the very earliest stages of planning, helping local authorities to engage communities and supporting the production of local design codes and design guidance, bringing your expertise to shape places that currently feel left behind. And I know that this will feel like no small feat, but with your help, places across the country can begin to break free from what Sir Roger Scruton called the cult of ugliness, enjoy happier and more fulfilling lives. The Office for Place is also one of those focal points for how we are trying to change the way we approach development in England. As many of you will know, the Office was born out of the Building Better, Building Beautiful Commission report and under the capable leadership of Nicholas Boys-Smith. And it's beginning to live up to the principal finding of that report, which is that the built environment and our natural environment belong together, and both should be protected and enhanced for the long-term benefit of the communities that depend on them. The work they are leading will have a significant impact in the way we turn visions of beautiful design into local standards that all buildings will have to meet. I know that as well as undertaking national research and meeting key people across the country, they're currently supporting 25 design code pathfinders across the country to develop good practice design codes and processes from which other councils and communities can learn based on the application of the National Design Code. At the same time, Nick and the wider board are working tirelessly to shift the debate about how we build in this country and raise the profile of design and beauty. And for that, Nick, I and many other ministers in my department are very grateful. I believe that every sitting government essentially becomes the temporary custodian of the built environment. And thanks to the efforts of all of you at RIBA, along with our wider reforms, I believe that we all recognise what we could achieve if we all pull together in the same direction, the direction of beauty. So I want to thank you all for the work you've already done, the work that's underway, and most importantly, the work that is still to come. As Winston Churchill said, we shape our buildings, and afterwards, our buildings shape us. We won't rid the country of poor design overnight, but by embracing beauty as one of the founding principles of good design, I believe we will be able to bring communities with us, enable our homes to help us share the vision that we have of our future. Thank you.